Tacita floated down to the office with intent, silently observing everything around her. On her way, she noticed Jason, Emily, and Sanjo coming up the stairs from lunch. From the top of the stairs, Tacita recognized Orion, of course, being a fifth-year companion, and Nova, who was fairly new. However, she felt suspicion regarding Nocto, who didn't seem to be who he claimed. Tacita, one of the oldest companions on campus, would be the only one to recognize this. The group of friends were laughing about something as they reached the top of the stairs. Tacita, seizing an opportunity, made an excuse and bumped directly into Nocto. "Oh, my apologies," Tacita said smoothly, addressing the students. "Don't be late for class." Nocto blinked and responded, "It's my fault for not paying attention." The students nodded and continued on their way, still in high spirits. Tacita watched them go. She was left with questions. Although uncertain about Nocto, she had gathered new information to report to Professor Silvestri. She wasn't sure when she would tell him no. Professor Silvestri stood at the front of the classroom, watching students and their AI companions enter. He greeted some of them politely, trying to take note of their names. He noticed Jason and Sanjo, with Nova and Orion following them, and saw that they were first-year friends. Within himself, he felt young again, surrounded by fresh faces and new energy. The last students were arriving when Tacita returned with a tray of papers. The room was buzzing with the anticipation of a new class. Jason glanced at Tacita. That one can carry much heavier objects than the other AI companions. Curious, he turned to Nova. "Can you carry that much?" Nova was about to answer when Professor Silvestri began to get the class's attention. "Welcome, everyone," Professor Silvestri said warmly. "I see we have some new faces this year. I'm Professor Silvestri, and this is Tacita, my AI companion." He gestured to Tacita, who floated beside him with a subtle glow. Jason raised his hand, a little hesitant. "Excuse me, Professor Silvestri? How strong is Tacita? I noticed she can carry a lot more than other AI companions." Silvestri smiled.
"Ah, yes.
Tacita is designed to handle heavier tasks. Each AI companion has different strengths and capabilities tailored to their learned abilities." Sanjo leaned in, intrigued. "That's really cool. How long have you been working with Tacita?" Before Silvestri could answer, Tacita floated forward and spoke in a calm tone. "Professor Silvestri, I have completed the task you assigned." Silvestri nodded, his expression serious. "Thank you, Tacita." He addressed the class again. "We'll get started shortly, so come on and get settled, guys." Jason and Sanjo exchanged curious glances, but settled into their seats as instructed. Professor Silvestri began the class by surveying the room, his eyes moving over the students and their AI companions. "All right, class," Silvestri started, his tone dismissive of formalities. "I'm Professor Silvestri, and I teach communication. Around here, we do things a bit differently. Normally, you'd rely on the internet for distant communication, but that's not an option here." He leaned back against his desk, his attitude relaxed and informal. "First years need money, right? So I'm going to put you to work. You'll be working in groups to put up posters for your dorm's respective athletic teams. Laser tag is the most popular sport around here." He scanned the room, his gaze settling on Sanjo. "Socio, right?" he asked, having remembered the dorm but not the name. Sanjo hesitated, shyly looking at the floor. "Yes, my name is Sanjo," he mumbled. "Speak up, Sanjo," Silvestri urged, his tone forceful. Tacita floated closer, her presence amplifying the pressure on Sanjo. "Sanjo," Sanjo repeated, louder this time. Silvestri's eyes lit up. Good. You're my star player, right? Did so well in orientation." He patted Sanjo on the back, causing him to jump anxiously, not used to physical contact or being the center of attention. The separate dorms are just for fun, but let's be real. A shy guy like you shouldn't be in socio. It's completely random. He turned his attention to Jason. "You Jason, right? What an amigo chump," Silvestri said with a smirk. Not very imaginative to get shot by Sanjo, is it? Jason, trying to keep his composure, took the posters handed to him by Tacita. But as he stared down at them, Silvestri's voice started to trail and echo away. The room seemed to go white for Jason, and he felt a warm trickle from his nose. Blood dripped onto his desk. As the students went to Jason for the posters, one girl screamed, drawing Silvestri and Tacita over. Silvestri rolled his eyes, pushed the girl aside. "Relax, you're too sensitive," he said, glancing at her for a moment. Nova, who had been paying attention to Professor Silvestri until this point, finally noticed Jason's condition. Professor Silvestri shooed the other students away from Jason. "Go hand out the posters," he instructed them, his tone firm. He turned to Tacita. "Let's get Jason to the nurse," he said, guiding the nearly comatose Jason out of the classroom. Professor Silvestri guided Jason down the hall, away from the students who were eagerly planning where to put up their posters. Most of them had no idea where the best spots would be. Sanjo, however, was concerned for Jason and watched as Silvestri led him away. Orion hovered next to Sanjo, sensing something might be going on. Down the hall, Silvestri gently pushed Jason along. Jason went with it, too dazed to resist. Silvestri looked at Tacita, who made eye contact with him, and then at Nova, who was hovering close and paying attention to him. Silvestri looked back at Tacita. Tacita was as polite as possible with her invitation. "Nova, perhaps it would be best if you reported this to the office." Nova was initially unwilling. "But I should stay with Jason," Silvestri reassured her with a confident demeanor, shaking Jason a little roughly. "It's just a regular nosebleed, Nova. We can handle this. You go on ahead." Reluctantly, Nova relented, trusting Silvestri's apparent confidence. "All right, if you think it's best." Tacita and Nova floated off together, leaving Silvestri alone with Jason. Silvestri had effectively distracted Nova, revealing his true intentions. He led Jason into his office, closing the door behind them. Jason's world shifted from white to a vivid green. A laser shined directly into his eyes. After a moment, he saw Professor Silvestri checking the laser device, shaking it in his hand. Silvestri shined the laser in Jason's eye again. Jason's mind became, in a way, ajar, like a door slightly open, waiting to be prompted. He was unaware of his surroundings, seeing, yet unseeing. He didn't move, and he wasn't forming new memories at that moment. Professor Silvestri held up a flash card with a symbol from an age of computers that Jason had never seen. Jason, staring into the void, uttered a single word: "Ready." Silvestri held up flashcards, one by one. "What color is it?" he asked. "Blue," Jason responded. As Silvestri continued, Jason repeated the same answer for each blue flashcard. Silvestri's frustration grew visibly with each response. "What color is it?" Silvestri asked, holding up another card. "Blue," Jason repeated, his voice monotonous. Silvestri muttered under his breath, "Teenagers are stupid, and is probably not even in there properly." "What color is it?" Silvestri asked again, holding up another card. "Blue," Jason said, his tone unchanging. Silvestri's irritation was increasing. "What color is it?" he asked, trying once more. "Blue," Jason replied, unwavering. Silvestri's muttering became more agitated. He persisted despite dwindling odds. "What color is it?" he asked, holding up another card. "Blue," Jason responded again. Finally, one card prompted Jason to say a name: Azure. Professor Silvestri stood up straight, still as a statue. Tacita had returned without Nova and witnessed the moment. "You did it," Tacita said quietly. Silvestri responded, "It's only one part." He and Tacita stared down at Jason, silently contemplating the implications of what had just occurred, implications known only to them. Tacita, meanwhile, recalled her encounter with Nocto and wondered if she should tell Professor Silvestri about it. Farsight Veil will return after these messages. We now return to Farsight Veil. Please click like and subscribe. Nova floated into the nurse's ward, which was bustling with students who had experienced temporary nosebleeds and memory loss. The nurse, surrounded by staff, tried to maintain a calm atmosphere despite the underlying tension. As Nova floated by, she overheard a teacher speaking urgently. "It's a plague of glintworms." "This is a disaster," the teacher insisted. Nova continued through the ward, approaching Jason, who was sitting up and looking around. His shirt was stained with blood, but he otherwise seemed fine. Jason's face brightened upon seeing Nova. "Hey, Nova," he greeted with relief in his voice. The nurse noticed. She greeted Jason gently. "Good morning, Jason. How are you feeling?" She held up a small flashlight and instructed. "Look into the light for me." As the light shone into his eyes, Jason had a fleeting moment of clarity, a memory just within reach, but it slipped away as quickly as it came. The nurse turned to Nova. "Nova, could you take Jason's blood pressure, please? And listen to his heart," she instructed. Nova complied, floating around Jason and performing the tasks diligently. The nurse smiled warmly. "This is how the AI companions learn, Jason. It's important to rely on Nova." Jason looked at Nova. "I'm glad you're here, Nova," he said softly. Nova pressed herself against Jason's back and listened for a moment. "All done," Nova reported. The nurse nodded approvingly. "Good job, Nova. Jason, you seem fine now. Let's stand up and see if you're steady." She helped Jason to his feet, checking his balance. "You look good. You can go, but take it easy and rely on Nova if you need anything." As Jason walked down the corridor, he noticed Professor Silvestri and Tacita engaged in an intense argument. Tacita's tone was uncharacteristically stern, almost as if she was scolding Silvestri. Jason couldn't make out their words, but there was tension between them. Jason and Nova walked down the hallway to the Imago dorms to get a change of clothes. "Jason, don't forget about your homework," Nova reminded him, her tone gentle but insistent. Jason sighed. Yeah, I know. But what's the difference between you and the chip in my hand? That thing is supposed to connect me to the rest of the world, but it doesn't work here." Nova paused for a moment. "Well, Jason, I have free will. I don't actually have to help you, but I like learning, even through repetitive tasks. The AI you have at home can craft most media to keep you entertained, but I'm really here with you. I've only heard about it, actually." Jason looked at Nova curiously. "Yeah, it's always trying to do that. Even if I'm sad, it cries for me, so I don't have to." Nova nodded. "Exactly. The AI at home is so submissive that it placates you without question. It reminds you of your homework because it reminds everyone of their homework." Jason laughed lightly. "I guess that makes sense. Nova, I hope I didn't offend you." Nova's lights flickered again, showing what seemed like a gentle response. "You haven't offended me, Jason. I like exploring topics like this." As they reached Jason's dorm room, he opened the door to find Alex sprawled out on his bed, textbooks and gadgets scattered around. His eyes were half closed, a dreamy look on his face. And Cardi hovered nearby, projecting a serene image of a broken windmill on a hill. The grass in the projection was a deep red, and the windmill had a green brick structure. "So, you've been painting," Jason remarked, noticing several canvases on Alex's desk, each depicting the same windmill. "Yeah," Alex said, his voice soft and drowsy. "And Cardi and I have been trying to capture it. It's from a dream I had. We talk about going there someday, even though it only exists in my mind." And Cardi chimed in, "It's a beautiful place, isn't it, Alex? We could paint it forever." Alex nodded, a serene smile on his face. "Dreams are important, you know. Helps with the creativity." Jason tried not to be dismissive. "Anyway, we're going to check out the mall. Need to clear my head. I'll deal with the homework later." "All right, catch you later," Alex said, turning back to his bed, his eyelids drooping. And Cardi continued to hover, projecting the windmill for Alex in different hues. Having changed, Jason left his room reflecting on what Alex said. "Nova, do you dream?" As Nova guided Jason to the public bus stop and out the door, she floated alongside him. "You want to know if I dream?" Nova began. "Yeah, I guess I do," Jason replied. "Do you?" Nova paused for a moment, flickering. "In a way, yes. When I go through the day's data at night, I lose myself in the imagery. It becomes embedded in my memory, and that's a dream for me. I could show you, but it would look like wavy lines or static with patterns you wouldn't understand. They reached the front of the school, and Jason took in the bustling daytime campus. He looked across the field to see students playing soccer with their AI companions, who cheer them on. One AI companion was being used as a soccer ball. He had even changed his light to look like a soccer ball. The school was alive, and the field was filled with joyful chatter and shouts of students. Every social event happening around him was doubled by the presence of the AI companions. Jason was impressed by the scene. He liked seeing all the students so happy. Everyone was playing and moving. Some people were working on art or writing. Nova, look at all this. Everyone's so active. It's amazing, Jason remarked, feeling a little self-doubt. Nova floated around him, her lights sparkling. A day like today is a good reminder to make every day count. Jason sighed. I just don't know if I have enough time to do everything. I'm not even fit enough to play soccer with the others. We can play laser tag until you're ready, Nova encouraged. Jason noticed an AI companion being used as a soccer ball and laughed. Is it okay to kick that little guy around? Nova laughed with him. It's fine, Jason. That AI companion is learning to be a soccer ball. We all have different ways of growing. Jason grinned. Well, maybe you could try out some new colors, Nova. Nova's lights flickered playfully. Why not? Let me try a few. As Nova experimented with different hues, shifting from sky blue to soft pinks and vibrant greens, Emily called out to Jason and approached him, Nocto floating beside, a deep purple glow. Jason, glad to see you're up and about. Emily greeted warmly. Hey, Emily, Jason replied, feeling a bit more at ease. Nocto floated closer. Emily and I were just talking about going to the mall. Emily nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, you should join us, Jason. We can all go together. Nova reminded Jason, you'll need exact change for the bus. Jason asked, what is that again? Nova replied, $2 coins and a dime. Jason opened his wallet, expecting to see 50 cents, remembering that he had spent all his money on milkshakes and phone calls. Instead, he found exact bus change for 2 trips and a full bill in his wallet. Nova grew obviously suspicious, and Jason was aghast. Nocto interrupted, you must be awfully hungry, Jason. We could all get something at the mall. There's a place that has pizza and spaghetti called Papa Preachers. Together, they settled their bus change and, with Nocto's advice, worked out that it was probably easier to just use one pocket exclusively for bus change. Nocto helped them with proper bus etiquette, making sure everything went smoothly. As the sleek white and orange campus bus roared up the hill, its diesel-electric engine making its signature sound, the group prepared for their trip to the mall. The bus stopped, Jason and Emily stepped on and deposited the exact change they had prepared. Other first-year students, eager to explore the rest of the grounds, were struggling with their coinage. One student dropped his money on the floor, trying to count out the change, causing the bus to be held up for a moment. Jason and Emily exchanged glances, realizing how wise it was to have been prepared. Nocto ensured everything went smoothly. As they settled into their seats, Jason's thoughts began to wander. He wondered if Emily actually liked him. Nocto, being a facilitator, ensured the conversation didn't go silent. He projected a map of the mall on his deep purple surface, highlighting points of interest like an actual theater. Look, there's a lot we can explore, Nocto said, his tone inviting. Jason and Emily leaned in to look at the map, curious. Just then, the bus lurched forward, starting its journey to the mall. Tacita floated high in the back of the bus, her gaze fixed on Nocto. She observed his behavior closely. Nocto was acting more like a civil AI system, accommodating and planning their route to various points of interest. This was not his designated function. Nocto was supposed to be a Kansai companion. Nocto was so engrossed in guiding Jason and Emily that even Nova seemed fully engaged in the process. Tacita's lights flickered as she analyzed the situation. Silently, she stored and took note of Nocto's plans, gathering data as Jason and Emily confirmed which places they were most excited about. It was easy for Tacita to do this. She had been a teacher's assistant for a long time, and a bustling classroom was not so different from this. She examined the rest of the passengers from her vantage point. Many first-year students were looking out the windows, excitedly taking in the sights with their AI companions. Together, they entered the mall, greeted by the sound of light pop music playing over the intercom. Not Tacita, she floated off around the building, unseen by anyone. Casually, she guided herself to another well-used entrance and blended in with the crowd. Jason and Emily were making their way toward the mall's cafeteria, guided by Nocto. "You must be hungry," Nocto reminded them, giving Jason and Emily menu options from Papa Preachers when a loud voice interrupted. "You there with the girl?" A voice called out to Jason. "Yeah, you. Have you tried a smoothie?" Jason and Emily approached the counter, where a man with a mustache and a winning smile stood. "Give your girlfriend one of these, buddy," the smoothie clerk said, making Jason blush. The clerk reached over and smacked Jason's shoulder while pointing at the menu. $2, man. Check it out, you've got cherry, blueberry, strawberry. Get her the strawberry one, man. Jason asked, still blushing. "Is a smoothie like a milkshake?" The clerk boasted, "It's nothing like a milkshake." Emily remained silent, focused on the eccentric salesman. Jason decided to order 2 blueberry smoothies. Emily, also blushing, accepted the smoothie, surprised by the pushy sales tactic. Whether they shared a connection or not, Emily decided that she liked blueberry and would remember that the first time she tried it was with Jason. They were at the edge of the mall's food court, experiencing their smoothies. Nova chimed in, "I have never been here before. I almost want to wander off." "Please don't, Nova," Jason said gently. Emily, feeling sympathetic, suggested, "How about we walk around with Nova and come back if we're still hungry later?" Nocto, next to Emily, remained silent, patiently waiting. Nova, excited at the chance, suggested, "Let's go right to the movie theater. I love stories, and maybe we have time to see one." Jason and Emily agreed with Nova, and they made their way down the beautiful mall, passing clothing outlets and stores containing strange material goods that Jason didn't really recognize. They reached the theater within the mall. It wasn't that impressive, but there were a lot of students and people going in and out. Nova flew right up to all the posters to see the currently playing movies, getting in the way of other new AI companions trying to do the same thing. Nova felt like she had to introduce herself every time. "Wow, I've never been to a theater before," Jason said. Emily smiled, a distant look in her eyes. "Really? This one is much smaller than the big theater I went to as a child. It's pretty nice." Jason nodded, taking in the atmosphere. Even the carpet feels kind of soft and clean for the amount of traffic. It's like they want you to feel comfortable as soon as you walk in. Glancing over, they scanned the posters. They realized that the movies they expected to see weren't playing. It was as if these movies were from a different country or world. Nocto suggested, "How about a romantic comedy?" Jason and Emily shared a look, both feeling that it wasn't quite what they were looking for. Just then, Nova returned, excitedly repeating, "Buddy cop, buddy cop." She drew their attention to a poster of 2 casually dressed police officers standing back to back, reaching for their firearms. Jason and Emily agreed that they both liked the protagonists. Nocto encouraged their impulsive decision. "That looks like a fun choice." As they bought their tickets, Tacita watched from a distance, her presence a silent observer to the unfolding drama. Jason, Emily, and Nova entered the theater center together, while Tacita noticed Nocto staying behind for a second to examine the romantic comedy poster again. Farsight Veil will return after these messages. We now return to Farsight Veil. Please click like and subscribe. When they entered the theater, the usher tore their tickets and gave them the stubs. They didn't really think about it, but put the ticket stubs in their wallets. The AI companions floated to the top of the theater and dimmed so as not to disturb the viewing experience. Most of them had better eyesight than humans anyway. Jason watched other students being seated as the movie screen played trivia about movies and actors he had never heard of. At home, the top actors and music idols were almost as present as the moon in the sky. It was unusual that he didn't even recognize the faces of these actors. "Do you recognize any of these names?" Jason asked Emily, puzzled. Emily shook her head. "No, it's strange. I haven't heard of any of these actors. They must be from old movies or something." "I don't think so," Jason said, squinting at the screen. "Look at the background in that clip. Those are modern cars and buildings. These movies are recent." Emily leaned closer, whispering, "In one of the previews, I saw a woman sitting as President of the United States. That has never happened." Jason raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean? There have been 2 female presidents in the past." Emily frowned. "No, there never was. The closest we've come is a female vice president." They both fell silent for a moment, processing the information. "Are you sure?" Jason insisted. "I remember reading about them in history class." "I'm positive," Emily replied. "It's like we're from different worlds or something." Before they could continue their argument, the theater lights dimmed and the feature presentation was announced, interrupting them. They settled back into their seats, their minds still swirling with a strange realization. As the introduction song played, a vaguely holiday-themed melody filled the theater. Jason's thoughts drifted to his earlier phone call with his mother. He blinked and suddenly, he could no longer see color. Everything was in black and white. He touched his face and looked at his hands. "I'm bleeding," he said to himself, noticing the dark streaks on his skin. He looked around, but there were no seats, just an overwhelming darkness. The sound of the movie was muffled, but still audible. Despite the unsettling environment, Jason could still see the movie screen. He felt an inexplicable hunger gnawing at him, a sensation that seemed to anchor him in this eerie reality. He remained still, the movie playing on. A soft, repetitive melody began to play, its haunting auto-tuned voice wrapping around him. The sound was enticing, but Jason was totally paralyzed. Emily looked over to see if he was enjoying the scene as much as she was. To her concern, Jason was completely zoned out, his face blank. Worried, she carefully reached over and turned his head toward her, trying to get his attention. When she looked into his eyes, she saw the movie screen reflected in Jason's constantly open eyes. Emily blinked, and Jason's face turned colorless, with blood trickling from his nose. Horrified, she recoiled her hand. The movie played in front of her in black and white, the sound barely audible. She stood up in a panic and looked around, finding herself in a void with nothing but Jason and the movie screen. Too frightened to notice at first, a creepy melodic song repeated in various pitches, echoing around her. Nothing seemed to be hurting her, so she stood there in the darkness, trying her best to calm down. She breathed hard and focused on the movie. The shadow in front of the screen was not hers. It moved, lifting a hand and pointing toward Emily. Fear gripped her so tightly she could taste copper in her mouth. Panicking, she glanced at Jason, who remained unmoving. The silhouette then pointed at Jason with its other hand, and Jason looked up. From the darkness, a horrible noise emerged, the sound of broken glass constantly shattering in on itself, getting closer. Emily watched as broken glass swirled from the darkness to form a man who appeared to be made of stained glass. It moved toward Jason, the sound of bending, cracking glass causing Emily to cover her ears and look away. Shards of glass flew all over the room, sometimes colliding with each other. There was a flash of light and a loud boom. Before Jason, Professor Silvestri stood with his hands outstretched, somehow shielding Jason. The shards of glass whirled around Professor Silvestri, as if looking for a weakness. "Girl, can you hear me?" Professor Silvestri called urgently to Emily. She made eye contact with him, and he commanded her, "Stand behind me with Jason." Emily shouted over the noise created by the flying shards of glass, which tried to approach only to be repelled by a glance or a wave of Silvestri's hand. "Professor Silvestri, what is all this?" "I'm scared." While still repelling the shards, Professor Silvestri tried to calm her. "What's your name?" he asked. "Emily Vesper." "We had a class together already," she replied, cowering behind him. He tried to remain casual, breaking only to exert some kind of unseen pressure on a particularly large attacking shard. Oh, yeah. We've actually never met. I'm not really Silvestri. I'm sort of a single-purpose construct. I exist if this situation occurs, he said with a smile. Emily stayed quiet. She was confused. It sounded like Silvestri was saying something out of a sci-fi novel, and that was not her strong suit. He began to instruct her calmly. Honey, I need you to be brave and do something for me. You need to get up and focus. She listened intently. I want you to run as fast as you can, and I will be able to stop them all at once, he ordered. I'm too scared, she screamed. With urgency, he pushed her away and shouted, Run. In a panic, she scrambled into the darkness, looking back to see the entire swarm surrounding her, about to envelop her. The swarm of glass shards became illuminated and crashed into a single massive pile of thrashing glass. A blue bubble formed around it, silencing the monster. Professor Silvestri helped Emily to her feet. There, Emily, tell me what you know, he asked. I don't know anything, she replied, her eyes fixed on the ball of light containing the monster. Silvestri snapped his fingers to get her attention. Emily, time is very valuable here. He waited for her to nod in confirmation and continued. You went on a date with a boy, and you had milkshakes. Emily calmed down a little. It's not a date, and we had smoothies. Silvestri, remembering that even though he was just an afterimage, hated the smoothie guy as his creator did. Emily shared her experience, and Silvestri walked Emily over to Jason, who was comatose. Emily was still a little freaked out as the movie continued playing. His brain is working at, 3, maybe 4 times speed right now, he pointed to Jason, who looked pale. So, this isn't your boyfriend? Silvestri asked. Emily hesitated before answering. I just met him.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
I was excited about this school and everything. Silvestri rubbed his chin. Well, someone obviously doesn't think that's up to you, he said, still rubbing his chin. I'll give you a choice. After you get out of here, you can remember all this that has happened, he gestured around, or you can forget this happened and remember what she wants you to remember. So, a piece of the puzzle or the adventure that brought you to it. He looked down at her expectantly. Emily looked at Jason. Why not both? She asked. Silvestri waggled his finger at her. Let's just say there isn't enough space left for that. For the first time in her life, Emily had the most selfish thought. She wanted to remember this fantastic day, even if it was terrifying. She didn't understand any of it. It was more than a dream. She would keep this for herself. The adventure would continue, and she could stay close to Jason, who had been nothing but nice to her. I need to remember this and go home, she said to Silvestri sternly. Silvestri sighed. Don't tell anyone I gave you a choice, he said, turning to walk toward the shield containing the shards of glass still struggling within their confinement. Just do what she says after I leave, okay? He pointed at the dark silhouette of a woman who had been silently watching the whole time. Okay. Emily agreed after a second, only guessing what to do. Professor Silvestri walked toward the beast with confidence. As he did, his body began to glow, and his whole form was consumed by light. He thrust himself as a single force into the glass beast, sending them both into oblivion. In his final moment, Silvestri's image thought about how he gave Emily a choice and defied his creator. Emily looked at the silhouette, unsure of what to expect. The sounds in the room all disappeared, and the silhouette spoke. Do you love him? The silhouette asked, the words barely audible over the low hum that was like electricity flowing through power lines. Yes, Emily lied, her voice trembling. The room went black, and suddenly, Jason and Emily were sitting in the theater, looking into each other's eyes. Jason backed off awkwardly. How did I miss the movie? He asked, twisting his head to look at the screen and then back at Emily. Emily remembered everything, but she lied. You fell asleep, Jason. You haven't eaten anything all day. It's no surprise. Jason didn't question her explanation at all. Yeah, you're right. I am really hungry, he said, getting up and stretching.
Baby, kiss me again. Kiss me again. 秘密はそっとささやいて私と一緒に嘘を歌ってジェイソン参上キャシエ見る私たちの見るものを超える力愛を風に投げ入れて伸ば